Show. I want to get to our guest here, Adam Schuster of the Illinois Policy Institute. He's the Senior Budget and Tax Research Director at Illinois Policy, and he joins us here from time to time on our show. Adam, thanks so much for coming back. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I want to talk a little bit about the economic impact of specifically the times we're living in right now here in Region 4, which is the east side of the Mississippi River, right across from St. Louis. We have just been pulled back once again. Businesses closed, like restaurants are being closed to serving people inside, bars, limited capacity. If you are going to attend a funeral, they can only have a 25% capacity or 25 people, whichever is less. This becomes burdensome on the Illinois resident. It becomes burdensome on the Illinois business owner and on the Illinois taxpayer. And this is all in the context of, if everything was hunky-dory, no pandemic that existed, Illinois would still be in a drastically terrible situation with our unfunded pension liability and our economic debt. And then you just sprinkle in on top of that a little corruption. And Mike Madigan, who has been running the ship for 30-plus years, this is a recipe for utter disaster in the state of Illinois. I was curious if you could weigh in a little bit on any one of those issues specifically. What's the status right now for the economy in the state of Illinois?
I'll try to tie them all together a little bit here if I can, actually. So, the COVID-19 restrictions, reimposing COVID-19 related restrictions. This is creating, just numerous challenges, unprecedented challenges for businesses and taxpayers in this state. You add on lost income from furloughs, unemployment, lost business income from not being able to serve customers or only being able to serve them in a limited way. And then what a lot of people don't think about is the uncertainty itself is a major drag on business because it makes it really hard to plan for the future, to know if you're going to be able to expand, to know if you're going to be able to hire more people when you don't know what the state of government restrictions is going to be, what the state of the economy overall is going to be. And so this is exactly the wrong time to be talking about raising anybody's taxes because while their income is falling, customers aren't coming in. The thing that doesn't change for the most part is their tax bill, especially when you're talking about the most burdensome form of taxes we have in this state, which is our property taxes. They still have to pay the full property tax bill, even though the government's telling them that they can't get their normal income streams. And so you have the situation where businesses, taxpayers, workers, ordinary families are really struggling. We had a very weak economy going into the pandemic, one of the weakest among all 50 states. This has made things only worse. And what Governor Pritzker is talking about doing is hiking taxes on those very same people, on 100,000 Illinois small businesses, just as they're starting to get their feet back underneath them. He's talking about ripping the rug out by hiking their taxes through this progressive income tax vote in November. And I promise I'd try to tie it all together here. And I would say that, really what the question that they're being asked is do you want to hike taxes in the midst of the worst recession since the Great Depression? And do you want to give more power to Springfield while Mike Madigan is still in control, give them more authority to raise your taxes and to pick and choose who pays how much taxes with their 30-year track record of building up all this debt and the lack of willingness they've shown to change the way they do business?
Adam Schuster is Senior Budget and Tax Research Director at Illinois Policy. Adam, Annie mentioned the drain on the Illinois taxpayer. Your article that I'm reading here focuses specifically on Illinois' credit rating. Is Illinois' credit rating to the point where it actually couldn't get any worse, or could adding new taxes and people moving to the state, could it actually go down even from where it's at?
Oh, it can get worse. We are currently one notch above junk. No state has ever been junk rated, but there are Illinois governments that are currently junk rated. The city of Chicago is rated junk by Moody's. Chicago Public Schools is rated several notches below junk, actually.
And tell us what that means. Yeah. For people who may not be familiar with those terms, break it down for us.
Sure. So a credit rating is just a neutral assessment of sort of your overall financial health from these rating agencies. And the reason it's important for taxpayers is it determines the interest rate we have to pay on our debt. So when the state sells bonds, how much do we have to pay? And the spread between how much Illinois has to pay in interest and how much a AAA rated state or the highest rated states have to pay is 200 basis points or more than 2 full percentage points difference in the interest rate. So that makes borrowing and debt for things we do want to be able to take out debt for, like improving roads and the like, makes that borrowing way more expensive. And that could get even worse if we don't, start to right the ship and turn around our finances. We're currently teetering just one notch above junk. It's the lowest in the nation, the lowest of any state in U.S. history. And the connection to Madigan, the article you're talking about, is that when Madigan came into office in 1983 as the speaker, the year before, in 1982, Illinois was one of just 12 states with AAA rated credit. We were one of the top rated states in the nation. And over 30 years of bad decisions, Madigan has, overpromised on pension benefits, kicked the can on paying for those benefits, and racked up just massive piles of debt, and the credit rating has tanked.
So let's key in on the progressive income tax, which it will be on the ballot in November, along with Donald Trump and a lot of state representatives like Lisa Champoli in my district, the 112th, who I'm excited to support, who I hope replaces Democrat Katie Stewart, and also Amy Ellick in the 111th, who I hope replaces Monica Bristow. Those are 2 red seats that we could take. They're blue now, and I'd love to flip them to red to give us a little bit more balance in the House that is currently run by Mike Madigan. And from all of our research here, when we've talked to Katie Stewart and Monica Bristow, they're both eager to support Mike Madigan if he is to get reelected, and they are as well. But that progressive income tax is going to be on the ballot again in November. And Adam, I had someone just message me on Instagram. Let me see if I can pull up the message exactly here, because they wanted to know. It said, "Hi, Annie. I've been seeing on YouTube the Illinois fair tax commercials like crazy. Is that another name for the progressive income J.B. Pritzker wants to implement?" I want to be very clear with everybody who's listening how many different flowery ways that they are going to see this progressive income tax idea sold to them. And, what is the J.B. Pritzker administration advocating it's going to do? How are they going to use the progressive income tax to fix it, the fair tax, whatever they're going to call it? And why are they wrong on that?
Yeah, that's great, because actually when every voter in this state will be mailed some documentation from the Secretary of State that'll give a few arguments in favor of the amendment and a few arguments against the amendment. So it's important that people understand what the proponents of this are saying, what people like Governor Pritzker and Mike Madigan are saying about it. And what they're saying is that they're going to raise taxes only on the rich, which they define as anybody making more than $250,000 a year, that it'll raise about $3 billion more per year for the state government, and they're going to use that to spend more money on programs and plug deficits and existing debt burdens. But the reality is this amendment itself does not set the tax rates. There's a statute that goes along with it that would be triggered by the passage of the amendment. But all this amendment is asking, it's a very simple question, is do you want to give Springfield more taxing authority? Under the current Constitution, we have a guaranteed flat tax. They have to charge everyone the same rate, which means if you make 10 times the amount of money, you pay roughly 10 times the amount of taxes, actually a little bit more than 10 times the amount of taxes. But regardless, it's about whether those politicians in Springfield should have the power to charge different rates to different people based on their income levels. And while Governor Pritzker is selling this as a tax on the rich, we know how bad Illinois' debt and deficit problems are. We know that Springfield has been unwilling to deal with those problems, and we know that the progressive income tax doesn't raise enough money to deal with them. And their key strategy is just to keep going back to the same well, keep trying to ask for more money, for more of your hard-earned money to solve these problems. So if you allow them to have this new power to pick and choose who pays how much in income taxes, you're enabling divide and conquer tax tactics. And what you'll find is that just like in half the states that currently have a progressive income tax, the rich will very soon be redefined to include the middle class, and this is a Trojan horse for higher taxes on the middle class.
So the people who are campaigning right now in our area down here, the Monica Bristows, the Katie Stewarts, the Democrats in the House right now, who would have a vote if they were reelected on where these tax brackets would sit. They would be able to weigh in on it and need just a simple majority of individuals in the House and the Senate to approve the changing of these tax brackets as they are set to trigger right now. They're campaigning on the idea that only the super wealthy are going to get a tax increase. Adam, in your expertise, based on what you've studied and what you know about the crisis we're in right now, what is the likelihood that that tax bracket, as it's being proposed right now, gets increased rapidly, very quickly? How likely do you think it'll be that it'll be increased? Who is going to have their taxes increased under this progressive income tax?
I would say it's a near certainty. I mean, just look at their track record. They promised that the 2011 income tax hike would be temporary. They made it permanent in 2017. That's the second time Madigan played that game. He also hiked income taxes in the early 90s, promised they'd be temporary, made it permanent. He's all about getting his foot in the door. And if you give an inch, he takes a mile. And with the progressive income tax, it's the exact same thing. The question for me really isn't if they'll change these rates to hit the middle class, but when they'll change these rates to hit the middle class. And that's an open question. It depends on how bad the state budget is. It depends on if they're successful in getting a federal bailout. But there's no way that Illinois solves its problems with a progressive income tax. And all it does is make it easier for them to raise taxes on everybody. So if you know it's not going to actually solve the debt problem, and you know that they haven't gotten serious about changing the way they spend our money so far, if you just give them the ability to make it easier for them to raise more money, they're going to come for the middle class, because that's where the majority of taxable income is. The rich might have a lot of money individually, but there are so much fewer of them that the majority of taxable income actually rests with the middle class. And that's why in 18 of the 32 states, so in half of the states that currently have a progressive income tax, their top rate hits the Illinois middle class, or the equivalent of the Illinois middle class.
Man, vote no, people. It's the progressive tax. It's the fair tax. That question is going to be on your ballot, and we need to resoundingly say nope, no, thank you. Adam Schuster, the Illinois Policy Institute. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for your insight. We always value it here. Yep, we'll talk to you again soon. Your insight, we always value it here. Yep, we'll talk to you again soon.